you are an overcomer. May I take a moment to explain how I have arrived at this conclusion about you?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. It will help me build to my question. So you have overcome poverty. You know what it's like to make $19,000 a year, and probably less than that. And now you can spend $19,000 at the snap of fingers. You know what it's like to drive an old jalopy of a car, and now you carry around $100 bills to tip the valets. You've overcome career woes. You know what it's like to be fired, and now you make a fine living doing what you love every day. You've overcome disability. You have a hearing disability, and you're the king of radio. You've overcome the misconceptions and the misunderstandings of your intellectual father. Your intellect didn't respond to the confines of the American academic structure, and now you write history books, and you're America's teacher. And last, you daily, for decades now, overcome slander and lying and deliberate misrepresentation. And President Trump might be the only other person I see subjected to at the same level that you are, and you both overcome it with grace. How do you overcome it with such grace? And what advice do you have for us who, at a different level, are still subjected to it?
Okay, first off, let me ask you, would you like to write my biography?
Sure, let's do it.
That was just, I'm blown away by your, that was just one nice thing after another. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. That denotes an awareness on your part. You're extremely aware. You've noticed things and you remember them, and that's. You should have seen my face as you're going through this, and everybody else's. They were applauding you on the other side of the glass.
Oh. Well, I've been listening to what you say for a very long time.
Well, it's obvious that you have, and it kind of floors me because I don't, I never hear anything like what you just said. I never, ever hear it. So it's a combination of appreciation and a little embarrassment. Not quite know how to react to it other than to say thank you and to applaud your perception, because you're right about practically all of it. Just look, you have to excuse my asking this over and over again. It's my hearing. I'm not quite sure. I want to make sure what you're asking me before I go into an answer that's maybe off tangent. Explain to me exactly what it is that you are asking me for advice on, if that's what it is, or suggestions or what have you. Because what I gather is that you are suffering defamation, slander, unreal lying, mean-spirited criticism in your family and other places. You're wondering what's the best way to deal with it, how to survive it, how to counter it, how to overcome it, how to destroy the people doing it. What is it that you want to know?
No, I think a lot of us experience this, I guess we could call it suffering, this type of suffering when we stand up for truth and when we stand up for what's right. And often what happens with the people that disagree with us is they just immediately come on the attack.
Right.
If they have to make up things about you, if they have to lie about you, make up a false narrative. Like at work, some of the women don't like that I'm successful at some of the work I do, so they just make up a false narrative. She's incompetent. It's not true. I know it's not true, but how do you respond? How do you overcome that with grace? Do you just totally put the blinders on, block it out, don't pay attention?
That's what I do.
What's your advice?
That's what I do. I just ignore it. When it first started, this is one of the areas of this job that I was entirely unprepared for and totally ill-equipped for, and nobody had any answer for me. 6 months after I start this show, all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I'm a nationwide racist, sexist. I hate women. I hate African. And my gosh, if this sticks, I'm destroyed before I even start. So I'd run around asking people, how do you deal with this? And every person I asked had a different theory, which told me there's no universal answer to this. The most common answer I got that made sense was to ignore it. Because the minute you react to it, and this is something I strongly disagree with President Trump on. I think he elevates the criticism he gets. And I think he expands it and extends it by responding to it. I've always tried to, in my own mind, be bigger than the critics or the criticism. I've tried to look at responding to them as the equivalent of punching down, which is something you never do. You never waste time on people beneath you. You never give them the time of day. What they say, what they think, who they are. If they're coming after you and they're gnats, if they're just vermin running around behind the wall, just ignore them. It's a mistake to give them the pleasure of knowing they've upset you. It's a mistake, because then you're going to elevate what they're saying and expand it to a whole bunch of people who will not hear what they say, who don't know what they say. Now, I can know the objections that you have to this too. Well, some people are going to believe them. But you can't control that. Unless you want to try to make an appointment with everybody in your office that you don't know, or wherever these people are uttering their criticism. If you want to have a personal meeting with everybody you think might believe this, you could do that, but all you're going to end up getting is, man, this woman is really bothered by this. There must be something to it. Responding to it, I have found, never is as effective as ignoring it. There are exceptions to that. It's seductive, responding to it, nuking them, destroying them. It just, in my case, it's never worked. It has always prolonged it. What you're talking about also is a healthy mental attitude in the face of all this. Yes. Another benefit to ignoring it is you don't think about it. And the worst thing that you can do is to become focused on or obsessed by the criticism. Because one thing about this that is undeniable, if you are going to be a truth teller, and this is not a sop, by the way, and I am not being patronizing, and I firmly believe this, in our culture today, and where we're headed and where we are, standing up for the truth is to make yourself a target. And in fact, it always has been when you get right down to it. If you're going to stand up for the truth, you're going to have to expect to get some of this. And you're going to have to acknowledge that it's the league you've chosen to play in. If you're going to be loud about it, if you're going to try to make a point of it, if you're going to try to be a leader on what you think is the truth, you're going to have to acknowledge that a lot of people are going to be put off by it. Some are going to be scared, some are going to be mad, some are going to be whatever, and the more people you make uncomfortable with it, the more they're going to try to harm you, because they're going to look at you as the source of their discomfort. Another reason why, just ignore it and take your strength and take your comfort and solace in the self-knowledge you're being true to yourself. And I'll tell you what gets me through. I cannot emphasize this enough. I'll give you an example. When this whole episode with Michael J. Fox happened, and I was being mischaracterized as making fun of people with Parkinson's disease, you know what got me through that? Because I'm used to being lied about. I mean, for 6 months, this was during a presidential or maybe a Senate, it was an election year, a big election year, and I was being used in campaign ads against a Republican candidate in the Senate. And it was being lied about, tarred and feathered, and there were all kinds of efforts being made to get me off the air because of my NC. You know what gets me through that? One thing only, and that is the full-fledged trust that all 22 million people in this audience know it's bogus, that none of them were going to abandon me, and in fact had my back, and were never going to go away, were never going to fall for it, and they didn't. Now, you can't unless you get a radio show like this, you can't have that kind of imaginary support, but you do have people you know, and you do have people you love, and you do have people that care about you. And if you have total trust that they've got your back when you're being maligned, when you're being impugned, that should count for a lot in terms of your mental health. We human beings, all of us, are programmed early on to be concerned, and some people are even worse than that, about what other people think of us. And the simple fact is, you can't change what people who do not know you think about you. All you can do is take solace in the fact people who do know you and the people you do love are not going to fall for these attempts to impugn or destroy or whatever. So you're going to have your own support group, whatever size it is, plus your own self-confidence that you are being true to what you believe in and true to the people you love. And that is probably the best thing that could sustain you.
So you've got to know who your people are.
You do. You have to. You have to trust them. You have to have confidence in them. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, I do. Whenever anything like that, Michael J. Fox said, anyone, it doesn't matter. I have never quaked in fear here over any of these controversial things. Why do you think? You probably know. You're shrewd. Why do you think I know full well that Donald Trump's audience, his voters, will never abandon him because of things other people say? Why do you think I know that the only way Trump can lose his voters is he does something? The media cannot destroy him, no matter how. They cannot destroy him with his base. The media cannot destroy the connection Trump supporters and voters have with him. Only Trump can do that.
Well, my supposition is that because you have experienced the same thing with your listeners. Exactly.
Despite everything, and I look at it, despite everything I've put this audience through, they're there. And it's a larger number today than it's ever been. I have every reason in the world to trust the intelligence and awareness of people in this audience. They know when things about me being said are not true. They know when they are true. They know, and they're not affected by it. They don't split. They don't leave. I've got 29 years of evidence of this. I can't tell you how sustaining that is. Why I try to express my gratitude for the people in this audience as often as I do.
Well, it's certainly true of me, and clearly it's true of millions and millions others.
Well, it can be. Thank you, but you can make it true for yourself too if you're in a similar circumstance. I mean, because what you're talking about is people lying about you. They're attacking you simply because you're standing for the truth. They don't want to hear it, whatever it makes them fear, and they're trying to damage you. And they're trying to do some kind of damage to you, and you have your own ability to withstand it with whatever group of people in your life you know you and trust you and are able to learn very quickly when this criticism is bogus or when it's accurate. But they're not going to abandon you because of it. And that is sustaining. It's comforting, and it can promote confidence as well. Where people get into trouble, Robbie, is when they start paying more attention and being more concerned about what the people they don't know think of them. That's a recipe for disaster. That's the first step towards somebody losing their identity. When you, based on what I've learned, the greatest bit of advice that I would ever give people or be able to gift is if I could convince everybody I met to not care what they say about you. To not be destroyed by it, because it changes the definition of who you are. You stop being yourself when you think you have to be something for what. And the mistake people make when they do this, we all do it. It's human nature. We make the mistake of thinking we're the only ones screwed up, and the people judging us have it all together. So we think the people judging us are cool or hip or they're right or whatever, and we are the ones with the fallacy or the faults. So we have to do something to show them they're wrong. And when you start down that path, you cease being who you are. When the truth is, they're just as screwed up and insecure as you or anybody else is. And they're doing the same thing. They're trying to make other people think positively of them. Everybody's doing the same thing in a giant circle. And you'll know the people who really succeed and stand out and go great guns are those who don't care what the people they don't know think about them. There are exceptions to this, of course, depending on what your business. Like Michael Jordan, for example, he can't purposely antagonize Republicans because they buy tennis shoes. So he has to shut up. He's not out there trying to make everybody love him, but he wants to make sure that he doesn't turn people off to him needlessly. So there are exceptions to everything that I'm saying here. They're tailored to each person's specific life experience. But for mine, for me, it's just been ignore them and don't care what people think because they don't know. And look at what's happened to me today, Robbie. Your call alone, the 3 to 4 minutes that you took at the beginning of the call explaining who I am and why you admire me, that will get me through another 10 years. Because that is evidence that my trust and faith in the audience and that you know and understand has been validated. That 4 minutes is enough to give me confidence to know that I've made the right decisions and I'm doing the right things for who knows how many years. I can't tell you how valuable